Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a battle that wasn't just won with brute force. It was won with a single brilliant idea, a move so audacious it completely changed the fate of an empire.
Now, that's not some kind of riddle. It's the very real, terrifying question a Mughal commander was asking himself one morning in 1738, right before his entire defensive line, the very gateway to India, just collapsed.
So, this is the story of that moment. A real showdown between two commanders at one of the most famous strategic choke points on the planet. You've got the invader, the brilliant, unstoppable Nader Shah. And then you've got the defender, Nasir Khan, who was sitting pretty in what he thought was a totally unbeatable position.
All right, let's get into it. To really get why the attack was so genius, you first have to understand just how impossible the defense was supposed to be. And that all starts with the Khyber Pass. For centuries, the Khyber Pass was basically the front door to the Indian subcontinent. It's this long, winding 53-kilometer-long path cut through the mountains. And look, if you were an invading army and you couldn't get through this one spot, your invasion was just over, done before it even started.
I mean, just look at this terrain. It's a fortress built by nature. You've got these massive cliffs, like 1,000 feet high, on both sides. And in some spots, the whole pass squeezes down to only 600 feet wide. What does that do? Well, it forces any army, no matter how big, into one long, skinny, super vulnerable line. It's literally a perfect kill zone.
So that brings us back to our defender, Nasir Khan. He's got 20,000 men, a mix of local guys, basically militia, and some regular troops. And they are dug in deep in this picture-perfect defensive spot. In his mind, there's just no way he can lose. His army is blocking the only road. Period. So if you're Nader Shah looking at this from the other side, things are looking pretty bad. All his modern tactics, his experienced soldiers, none of it matters when the landscape itself is the enemy.
Attacking head-on? That's just a suicide run. Plain and simple. He'd be marching his best man right into that meat grinder. And for what? To watch his army get chewed up? Nope, it was a complete non-starter.
But this is what separates good generals from legendary ones. They don't see walls, they see puzzles. And Nader Shah wasn't about to try and smash this wall down. Nope, he was going to find a way around it. And his plan started with a really, really clever trick.
So he puts his son, Nasrullah Mirza, in charge of the main army camp. And his orders were simple. Make a lot of noise. Act like you're getting ready for that big, dumb frontal assault. They started moving troops around, digging trenches, the whole shebang. And it worked. The Mughal army was completely focused on the front door, just watching all this commotion, while Nader was quietly looking for a back way in.
And guess what? He found one. A local guide, and who knows if he was paid or forced, told him about this other path, a really treacherous, completely unguarded route called the Chachabi Pass. Now, let's be clear, this was not some scenic detour. We are talking about an 80-kilometer march through some of the gnarliest terrain you can imagine. This was a path that everyone thought was totally impassable for an army. Right, so he couldn't take everyone. He cherry-picked his absolute best troops, 10,000 of his elite light cavalry. These are the guys on horseback, built for speed and endurance. They left everything else behind. No cannons, no heavy supply wagons, nothing. The goal was to move light and, more importantly, to move fast. Okay, so you've got the Mughal army totally distracted by this fake show at the front. And while they're watching that, Nader's real plan is kicking into gear. This thing was a huge gamble, a race against the clock, and against the mountains themselves. So, on the afternoon of November 25th, Nader and his 10,000 horsemen just disappear. They slip into the mountains and march all through the freezing night. Can you imagine? The bitter cold, picking their way through these terrifyingly narrow gorges in the dark? But in just 24 hours they did it. They covered the whole distance and popped out right behind the enemy lines, just as the sun was coming up. Nobody saw them coming.
So picture this. You're one of Nasir Khan's soldiers. You wake up on the morning of November 26th feeling pretty secure. The enemy's way over there, in front of you. But then you look behind you, and there they are, the very same army. It must have been absolutely terrifying. One person who was there described them like nightmarish phantoms emerging from the gloom. Chilling, right?
There was just no time. No time to turn around, no time to get into formation, nothing. Just a single, all-out charge from Nader's cavalry slamming into their rear. The whole thing was over fast. It was brutal.
I mean, the Sir Khan's men were brave for sure, but they stood zero chance. The shock was just too much. The entire defensive line just disintegrated.
So this win wasn't just about one battle. It was about kicking down the door. That impossible gateway to India, yeah, it was now wide open.
And what happened next was like a set of dominoes falling. First, the Khyber Pass is taken. That's the biggest hurdle, gone. Then, just 3 days later, the big regional capital, Peshawar, just gives up. They don't even fight. Think about the psychological impact of that. And just like that, the road to the heart of the Mughal Empire, the rich lands of the Punjab, was completely exposed.
Yeah, this masterpiece at the Khyber Pass, this wasn't the final act. This was the opening scene. It paved the way for his next huge win at the Battle of Karnal, and that led directly to the infamous sack of Delhi in 1739, a truly devastating event in Indian history.
So you might be asking, okay, why does this one battle from so long ago still matter? Why are we still talking about it?
Well, for one, it was a major turning point. It basically ripped the curtain back and showed everyone how weak the once powerful Mughal Empire had become. It totally shifted the balance of power in the whole region. And for Nader Shah, this battle cemented his reputation as an absolute tactical genius. To this day, military strategists study this move. It's a textbook example of flanking. You use deception to hold your enemy in place, you use speed to create surprise, and then you hit them where they're weakest. He didn't just win the fight, he won the mind game.
And I think, in the end, the Battle of the Khyber Pass teaches us something pretty timeless, right? It shows that the biggest walls in front of us aren't always meant to be smashed through. Sometimes the real victory comes from having the vision and the guts to find that hidden path nobody else thinks is possible.